Some of the companies are better about warranties than other. None of them are very good, though.
Well, and maybe let's take a step back for any of our listeners that aren't familiar with the conversation. It's this idea that it's immersed in oil,
Sure.
correct?
Yeah.
And what is the benefits of immersing
It's all about dealing with heat, right? So miners produce a lot of heat, especially air-cooled miners. So we produce a ton of heat, which means we have to deal with that heat in some way. On an air-cooled miner, a lot of times we'll use containers. Containers will have large fans in them. Those fans create a parasitic load that's just more power that you're using. Also, on the miners themselves, the fans use power, right? So if we can take those fans off, then we're not going to use as much power, and we can find ways of dealing with the heat by cooling the liquid instead of trying to cool the air that's going into the miner. Now, all that being said, I feel like there's a place for immersion, and I feel like the manufacturers are almost there. I think WhatsMiner just came out with the M53, I think it was. Beautiful setup. It's rack mount. I would love to work with that system. I think it's a great idea. Where I start to draw the line is I'm usually working for clients. I have, people that I'm hosting for. They have warranties on their equipment. I don't want to void anybody's warranty. I also don't want to do any R&D with somebody else's equipment because they're relying on that to produce rewards. What I've seen personally in the space is that a lot of people that get into immersion, in the long run, you're paying for R&D right now. Even if you've got it figured out and you're like the best immersion operator in the world, you're still kind of paying for R&D right now.
Because it's a relatively new innovation.
Right. And the machines aren't really made for it, so.
And you mentioned nullifying the warranty once you immerse it in oil.
Right.
Does that...
Yeah, and you can even just changing the firmware on the miner can void the warranty. And to speak to that a little bit, some of the companies are better about warranties than other. None of them are very good, though. So I don't want anybody to get it in their head that they can put a lot of stock into the warranty of these miners, because that's not something you can do. I've always told people you want to buy multiple miners. There's reasons behind that. You have to make sure that you have consistency and security, that if one of those miners goes down, that you're not left with no hash rate, right? So whenever you start to mine with these, they're not the server in the AWS data center that everybody thinks of. I talked to Gideon Powell the other day, and I like the terms that he's throwing around using the term load center. I think that really does draw a very good line between what a data center is and what a load center is, because what we're using in Bitcoin mining, it's not really high performance computing. They're really simple ASIC chips. It's high density. It's very, very, very close together. We're trying to make sure that we're using as much power capacity as possible in this small space, right? So it really is a load center whenever it comes down to it. And I think that's a good way to kind of differentiate between what we're doing here. So whenever we are putting that amount of load on the grid like that, there's other skills that you need that aren't just computers anymore. We need to understand safety. We need to understand OSHA. That's where we're really going with this. The industry is starting to really become an industry and standardize with these things. So I think that a lot of what we're trying to get out of it now is the standardization of these machines is going to be centered around how we deal with the heat and how we deal with the ROI, because I feel like a lot of the immersion people tend to forget that that's a huge investment to put in to tanks and fluids and things like that you may not be able to use in a year, depending on what kind of equipment comes out.
Hey, it's Amy. Click over here to subscribe, click over here for more content, and we'll see you next time.